do a little start bench cut. We're going to tell you who's going to be in their lineup, who's going to be on their bench, and who's going to be someone that they may be cutting. We'll start with the quarterbacks here. We got Matthew Stafford coming off a huge game, taking on the Seahawks. Jameis Winston coming off a huge game, taking on the Chargers. And Bo Nix coming off a huge game, taking on the Ravens. So Heath Cummings, start, bench, cut of this trio of quarterbacks.
Well, this matchup may not be quite as good for Bo Nix as Carolina was. Actually, the Ravens have given up more fantasy points to quarterbacks than the Panthers have. I'm starting Bo Nix. I will bench Matthew Stafford. I will cut Jameis Winston. I do have Jameis ranked ahead of Stafford right now for this week, but Stafford's long-term potential upside with Kupp and Puka Nacua enough to put him on my bench.
I'm starting Matt Stafford. Matt Stafford historically carves up the Seattle Seahawks in the passing game. So I got Matthew Stafford starting. Bo Nix has come on and sort of bursted onto the scene. I'll put him on the bench. And I love Jameis Winston and his energy and his leadership, but I got to cut him because he's likely to throw 4 interceptions in any given game. He
definitely does have that potential. I'm going to go the same route as Robert. I think Matthew Stafford, with his guys back, it's now 5 of his last 6 games or 6 of his last 7 games, over 22 fantasy points going back to last year when he's had Kupp and Nacua on the field for a full game. So hopefully that's what we see for the rest of the season. Bo Nix, like you said, coming on, and it is a good matchup against the Ravens. We'll just see if he can take advantage of it, but a very beat-up secondary for Baltimore. And then Jameis Winston, got to be a little strategic with some of these. So he's got a tough matchup against the Chargers, then a bye. So I can cut him this week and pick him up again in Week 11 when he has a former team in a revenge game against the Saints. So I will go back to Jameis at that point if I need him in Week 11. Let's go to our next trio of options here. We got 3 running backs, and that's Rachaad White, Alexander Mattison, and Ramondre Stevenson. So White, tough matchup against the Chiefs. Mattison, tough matchup against the Bengals, or not really a tough matchup against the Bengals, but we'll see if he takes advantage of it. And Stevenson taking on the Titans. Robert, start, bench, cut this trio of running backs.
Yeah, I'm going to start Ramondre Stevenson. You know, although he did get benched earlier in the season, Ramondre has just been a steady guy over the course of the last couple of seasons. So I'm going there as my starter. On the bench, I'm actually going to lean towards Mattison on the bench. All right, in this situation. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that he's really taken over the number 1 running back spot in Las Vegas, and you know he's getting the bulk of the carries right now. Rachaad White is still splitting a lot of time, even though he's very productive in the passing game. I'm starting Ramondre, Alexander on the bench, and I'm cutting Rachaad White.
I'm actually starting Alexander Mattison. I love how concentrated this Raiders offensive attack has gotten. All the running back touches go to Alexander Mattison. All the wide receiver touches go to Jakobi Meyers. All the tight end touches go to Brock Bowers. We can start all 3 of those guys 4 games in a row with at least 17 touches for Mattison, and I think he has the best matchup. I will bench Ramondre Stevenson. I will also cut Rachaad White.
Yeah, I'm going to go the same route as you, Heath. I think what we've seen from Mattison, I hope it doesn't change. Look, you know, you might get some, because he's just not running with a lot of efficiency, and he certainly did not do that against the Chiefs, but his role in the passing game has been sort of solid the entire year, and I don't think that Zamir White did anything early in the year to take Mattison off the field despite a bad matchup last week against the Chiefs. Stevenson did get you 2 touchdowns last week, did not look good running the ball, but really things change when Drake May is back under center for the Patriots, and as Heath alluded to, there might be the opportunity for Drake May to clear the concussion protocol and play in Week 9, and Rachaad White, like Robert said, just in too much of a crowded backfield right now. We didn't see Sean Tucker very much last week with only 5 total touches, but that could certainly change based on how they want to use all 3 of those running backs. All right, next trio of options we're looking at here. We got 3 wide receivers. We got Jakobi Meyers, Cortland Sutton, and Ladd McConkey. All 3 coming off good games. All, for the most part, have an opportunity to be the number 1 receiver on their respective teams. Certainly number 1 receiving option. Maybe Meyers not the case in Las Vegas. So, Robert, I'll go back to you first on this one. Meyers, Sutton, McConkey. Start, bench, cut.
This is a really good one, but I'm going to start Jakobi Meyers. You know, he's been the consistent number 1 target for the Raiders when healthy. Because of my intrigue of Ladd McConkey and what that can become, all right, in L.A. with the Chargers, I'm going to bench him, and I'm going to cut Cortland Sutton just because there was a game where he had no targets, no yards, no touchdowns. And I'm just afraid that I can see that again in Denver. So I'm starting Meyers. I'll put McConkey on the bench, and I'll cut Cortland Sutton.
So I'd be pretty okay starting all 3 of these guys this week. I wouldn't want to cut any of them, but that's the joy of this game. I agree with Robert completely. Start Meyers, bench McConkey, cut Sutton.
It's so tough. I think Meyers is the easy call. You're starting him this week because he's been so good when he's been healthy, and the matchup, I think, is easy enough that you say, okay, I'll trust him. Sutton's got such a great matchup, though, and you saw last week, Sean Payton, after the game where he had no targets, said, we got to keep him involved and keep him going, and you saw the big game last week, and now he gets not only the Panthers, but now the Ravens, and so can he take advantage of it? I think he can, but I also think that he's the one that might not have the highest ceiling moving forward if McConkey continues to get more targets. That being said, they probably have the lowest volume of any of these passing games. Between the Chargers and Denver, it could be close. But Bo Nix, I just don't know if he's going to trust Courtland Sutton. We've seen other guys step up in recent weeks. Adam Troutman, for example, comes out of nowhere and has 4 catches, 85 yards, and 2 touchdowns, where I think McConkey will still continue to grow in his role with Justin Herbert. So unfortunately, like he said, we don't want to get rid of any of these guys for this week, but Sutton will be the one you have to move on from. All right, let's go to our trio of tight ends now. We got Cade Otton, David Njoku, and Evan Engram. All 3 guys in some great situations. Otton, the lead receiving threat for the Bucs with the injuries there at the wide receiver spot. Njoku really taking off since Amari Cooper has been traded. And Evan Engram might get a boost now without Christian Kirk there. So Heath, start, bench, cut these 3 tight ends.
These 3 tight ends are all in my top 8 tight ends for this week, just to keep things in context. Cade Otton, though, is playing the team that gives up the most fantasy points to opposing tight ends, so I will start him. Evan Engram is playing the team that gives up the fewest fantasy points to tight ends, so I will cut him. David Njoku goes to the bench, but I still think he could be a top 5 tight end for the rest of the season.
I'm going to also start Cade Otton, but Evan Ingram's going to be on my bench, not because of just the injury to Christian Kirk, but Brian Thomas Jr. is a little dinged up as well, and so that could mean more opportunities for Evan Engram. And I'm going to cut David Njoku just because I just can't trust Jameis Winston totally.
It's tough. These 3 guys are all in such great spots right now, and all 3 of them had big games on tight end day last Sunday. So we'll see if that carries over to tight end day +1. I think we have to also cut David Njoku, but again, it's strategically because they have their bye in week 10, so you can move on from him and then hopefully pick him back up if Evan Engram, let's say, doesn't take advantage of the injuries there. And it's not just Brian Thomas is banged up. Gabe Davis also has a shoulder injury, so you could be right, Robert, that we're looking at a lot of targets going in Evan Ingram's direction. But as Heath said, it is a tough matchup. And just for context, I always look at Heath's rankings to determine what we're going to do for start, bench, cut to put him in some of these uncomfortable situations. All right, let's answer one of your questions here, and then we'll get to a lot more of them after the break. But Julian wants to know, PPR, Jaden Reed or Cedric Tillman? Heath, are you ready to start Tillman over Reed?
I will start Tillman over Reed if Jordan Love's not healthy. If Jordan Love is healthy, then it's Reed over Tillman for me.
Robert?
Exact same thing. Yep. If Jordan Love is healthy, I'm going Reed.
All right, let's hope Jordan Love is able to practice. If we get that report, I'll share it with you. Otherwise, you can check out cbssports.com for all the latest news. All right, we'll take a break right now. We come back. It's just all your questions. Send them to us on Twitter, X, using the hashtag AskFFT, and we're here to help you next on Fantasy Football Today.